Well, I did end up deciding. I did end up deciding to pull this handle out, and then I really spun this in the lathe, and I just decided to take it up and make it real nice. Um, Started out with some 80 grit, then moved up to some 120 emery, and from the 120 emery I jumped up to some 400 grit wet or dry, and jumped up to 800 grit wet or dry, then jumped up to 1000, and then hit it with a little crocus. I actually could have got a lot higher shine if I'd stepped it up a little slowly, so maybe went, 80, 120, 200, 300, 400, 600, 800, 1000. I like to jump up about 200 grits at a time. But the less you jump up between your grades as you're polishing, if you're polishing in that way. For example, if you wanted to jump up one grade at a time, if they even made them that close, so say you wanted to jump up, well, I think the closest they make them is around, increments of like 20. So, 120, 140, 160, and just build up from there until you get to 1,000, and you can even go over 1,000. There really isn't a limit to how shiny that you can actually make it with that method. Some guys use rouge, and a buffing wheel. That's a good way to go for some parts. Buffing wheels, they work and they have their place. But like I said, anytime you can spin something to polish it, it makes it so much easier to do. Because even holding this thing on the buffing wheel and just, handling around, it's more difficult than just sitting there as it spins and, applying your abrasive paper to it and giving it a nice polish. So, on this one, you see it hasn't been done yet, and I left this undone just so I could, show a little bit of the difference here. That's still got all of its browning on it. So, we'll go ahead and polish this one next. The way to remove this pin is actually dead simple. Or not this pin, this handle here. I believe that's called a bat handle. Is you just basically, with some soft jaws, clamp this in the vise, and then work it off. It's just a press fit. I'd heat it up a little bit when I did that one. I had to heat it up a little bit to get it to come free, but came free no problem. And then once I was done polishing it all up, I cleaned the end up with a little bit of emery. I cleaned the hole out real good with some solvent just to make sure no grit or anything in there in case I want to get this out again in the future. And I dropped a little bit of oil on it and pressed it back in with the vise. Worked beautifully. And I actually read that from Dennis Turk, who's a rather prolific lathe restorer. If you just kind of do a little looking around, look up Dennis Turk lathes on and Google, and navigate and find some of his restorations, and they are absolutely impeccable. I mean, the guy's attention to detail just absolutely astounds me. Very talented machinist. Every one of his restorations, he doesn't hold any bars. He scrapes the bed in, and you know, it's a true machine tool restoration. That is what is the level of work that he does, to the point where it's essentially as it left the factory or better. So yeah, definitely check him out. Look up Dennis Turk and see some of his work and some of the articles he's written. And he was the one that was discussing how to pull those out. Because if you remember, I was a little apprehensive about it at first. I wasn't sure if those were peened in there, exactly how they put them in. I had suspected that they were pressed in, but you know, when you read, you know, he was the one that says you pull it in the vise, and that works great. And I tell you, when somebody like Dennis Turk says it, you know, you ought to listen. Okay, so I will see you in the next clip. I wanted to show you the setup I had for polishing the tailstock lock. And you see, if you just get your, you have just the right center, you don't need to dog it. That will rest in one of the faceplate slots. And there you go, that will spin. And you can get on there and polish it. Now, I didn't have this bolt in here. I just put this back in here to show you real quick how I did this. This bolt was actually used to drive this one, which was set up in the same manner in the lathe. You can see center drill hole back there, and of course the one in the end there, and that was set up in the lathe just the same. It went in, gears and all, and when I did polish this, I had the gears and everything wrapped up and protected so they didn't get any grit in them, because I had already cleaned the gears and everything and reassembled that, and decided I wanted to go back and polish this just a little bit more. Yeah, you see the difference. This one was just kind of very basically polished, and this one got the high polish, so I'll go back and get that one as well. So, on to the next clip. I wanted to add that in a setup like this, you definitely want to use a live center, and use one that you don't care as much about, because you have to get in there, and you know, with the abrasives and everything, it's going to be hard on your center. Now, I managed not to ruin this one. It's still good, so you know, it'll still be in service, and actually I like this center quite a bit. Try not to get too off topic here. There we go. Try not to let that drop out. But I actually rather like this center. It's got a lot of hours on it, and really no worse for wear. Good quality. Made in Czechoslovakia. And you know, Czechoslovakia, they make, in my experience, you know, my limited experience, makes a fairly good tool. I know they're known well for their quality arms manufacture, and so, you know, anybody that makes quality firearms usually makes pretty good machine tooling as well, you know. For example, you know, the Israeli tooling that I've tried is of the utmost quality. So anyways, yeah, but just use a center that you don't care as much about, you know. And this one's pretty old, you know. I don't even think it's called Czechoslovakia anymore. It's the Czech Republic, so this is probably even pre-war, you know. But you know, and of course you could always you know, refresh that center cone, but I did want to mention that. Okay, so we got that separated, And yeah, that was just clamped in the vise, and this was gently heated. Always remember when you're heating cast iron to be very gentle with it. Don't just hold the torch in one spot. But yeah, this was gently heated, and I grabbed onto it, both hands, worked it back and forth, pulling it off, but I really did have to put my weight into this one to get it to come free, but I got it to come free. So now it's time to get this in the lathe. So in order to get these hand wheels in the lathe, we have to have them on some sort of an arbor. And really the easiest way to do that is to use whatever shaft that handle is mounted to as the arbor. Right here I have, this is actually the shaft for the apron hand wheel. And I left it in the chuck, and now this is the tailstock hand wheel that I have on here. They are the same size. The gear is still on here too. But in this chuck, it's big enough that the jaws just clear the gear back in there. So I'm not clamping on the gear. You don't want to do that. But this is a really nice way to go. You don't have to make a special arbor or anything up or dig an arbor out. Just use this as the arbor. And you know, you don't have to spin it super straight. You see, that's got some wobble in it. That's fine. We're not doing any machining here. As long as it spins reasonably straight, don't worry about it. And then when it's spinning, I can come along and I'll polish all that up. Alright, I'll see you in the next clip. Watch your fingers when you're doing this. See how much easier it is, though, to, you know, just stand here and work that paper around. Get it nice and shiny. The tailstock bright work is now complete. Looks good, everything operates buttery smooth, you know. So really all the tailstock needs now is paint. This rounded surface here was a cast surface originally, like this was, and was painted. I decided I didn't like that, so I went ahead and I took a file and smoothed that out real good, and then went ahead and polished it as well. And I think that looks much better, you know. It can always be painted again if somebody wanted to get really anal about the restoration. But I like the look of that polished metal, so we're going to leave that way. Alright, on to the next bit. Well, I'm out in the shop again, just planning how I want to do some more of this bright work. This handle on the half nut lever seems to be peened in. You can see the hammer marks in there. So I'm not going to try to remove that. You know, I could grind this flush and then try to press it out or pull it out, but I think you still risk breaking the cast iron, and well, that would be probably fairly easy to repair if it did break. You know, it's not worth the risk, and I don't really feel like breaking it and having to repair it. So we're gonna leave that in there, and I'll just polish that with the paper and swinging it around like that in my hand, you know, or just going like that and get it good. It would be nice if I could spin this one, because it could use a little bit of filing. It's got some dings in it. So the plate that goes on top of here. I'm going to put that on an arbor and polish it up. Oh, that's on there pretty good. Well, I just slipped that on there. One moment. There we go. Anyway, one thing I wanted to mention I thought was kind of interesting is, you know, you see the number here. These are assembly numbers for when they were fitting these all together, piece by piece. And you see it's a number on the lever casting itself, and interestingly, even on the little retention nut. Very, very detailed. A lot of work went into the building of these machines. And that just goes to show why you can't always just, you know, drop new parts in on these and mix and match. It's best to save what you got, whatever you can do. That's why it's also probably better to, you know, rebuild half nuts, because the half nuts are fitted on this lathe as well. It's better probably to rebuild your half nuts rather than try and swap in some new ones. You know, you may run into some issues there. Anyways, and yeah, you can see I've left that arbor just set up in the chuck there, and I swapped the chuck out with the 3-jaw to do some of the round work. Got the this is the bushing that goes in the hole that the clutch assembly goes in, and it too is marked with a number, assembly number. So yeah, see that number all over this machine. So, you know, these were usually a lot of times built in a batch of batches of 100, I think, at the time. So this is the 33rd lathe out of that batch. Alright, see you in the next clip. In looking at the grinding marks and the nut on the back of this, it was obvious to me that somebody had worked on this lathe apron at some point. But upon closer inspection, this is cast iron, but look at this. Somebody cut that out. Somebody must have broke the original casting. And they made this part out of a piece of scrap cast iron that came out of, you know, off of God knows what. Because that surface is definitely cast. They did a fairly good job. These 2 holes don't seem to serve any kind of purpose. Initially I thought they might be for oil to get through there, but there's no corresponding holes that those line up with. See how they peened that little stub shaft in there. So I just thought that was interesting. You know, it seems to work fine. Seems like they did a decent enough job, so, you know, no need to do anything about it, really. Yeah, show you what I've done here. I've taken the star wheel and I had it mounted up in the little 9-inch, as evidenced by all the cast iron dust on it now. And I went ahead and just machined down all that cast surface and got it trued up front and back. See, there's a little casting flaw. I didn't want to cut any deeper, so I just decided to leave that. And I even came in here on the inside of the hub with a radius tool and cut a nice radius in there. So after that, I went ahead and clamped it in the vise, and I got a rounded file, and I came in here to these crescent indentations around the perimeter and filed all the casting scale out of them. Now I'm going to take that same file and wrap it in sandpaper and go through and just polish all these inside edges, and then once that's done, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this in the little little Atlas machine over here, and I'll polish all the rest of it out, and it's going to be looking good. I'm going to do the same thing basically to this wheel here, and you know, this one was it's got that nice little star in the middle, so I think I'm going to leave the inside of this one alone and just do everything else. And you see somebody at the factory had machined it before and they messed up and they brought the tool in a little bit and must have said oops, and South Bend must have went, well, we're going to paint it anyways, it's not going to affect the function, and decided to use it. But we'll clean that one up too and get it all polished and looking nice. And I still have a little bit more cleaning on the apron casting to do once the bright work is done, and then I'm going to go ahead and reassemble that, and I'm going to move on to other things. Probably the next thing I'll do is get the saddle all cleaned up so that I can remount the apron and then continue on with the cross slide and everything. Alright, I'll see you in the next clip. Well, I thought I'd do a little threading. Came out pretty good. That's the screw that I'm making there. And we were missing one of these, and yeah, just a 18 pitch screw. I didn't even actually really measure the diameters, but I did measure the diameters, but I went old school and just used the regular old calipers, you know, and whoops, try not to drop my tools. But yeah, came out just perfect. Good tight thread, you know. So I just got to go ahead and part this off, and then I will profile the head. See, we have a little bit of a curve in there, and slot it, and that part is done. On to the next clip. Well, here it is, next to an original. See, I tried to copy that curve on the head. I just used a file to do that. As you can see, I haven't cut my slot in there yet. I made this a couple of threads actually longer than the original screw, and I did that so I'd have room to have a center drill hole in the end, and then I'd be able to face that off later if I wanted to. But in looking at this, it fits just fine, and that little extra length of screw there doesn't hurt anything, so we'll go ahead and just leave that be. Yeah, it sure is handy to have another lathe when you're rebuilding a lathe. Alright, on to the next bit. Can you tell which one is which? Well, if you guessed this one, you'd be wrong. That's the new screw, all finished up. Just cut the slot in there with a little hacksaw, and perfect. Threads. Threads right in there. So, we're done with this little project. And this was just something that's kind of late at night, and I felt like coming out and doing a little bit of lathe work, so this needed to be done. I figured I'd get her done, as Keith Fenner likes to say. Video's getting a little long now, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up for this edition. I was hoping to have all the bright work on this finished by the end of this edition and get the apron reassembled, but that's gonna have to wait till the next episode. You see, this is all smoothed out now, so really it just needs to be given a high polish like these other parts have. And I've got this other guy here in the lathe in the process of being polished up. Yeah, lots of work to do. So, if you like these videos, please do like them. If you have any comments or have any questions, you know where to go to put those. And if you'd like to see more, please do subscribe. Got a lot more videos coming up. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.